Financial overwhelm is something that I know that we all deal with at some point in time or another. And honestly, it's kind of comes in waves for everybody, right? Like there's moments where you feel like you've got it all figured out, and then there's moments where the overwhelm hits. And how often that hits probably depends on what you're going through. Right now, I'm in the middle of updating or working on the refresh for the relaunch of Money Mastery Academy. And I was working on the battlefield, and I wanted to do a quick episode on some of the things that I've picked up as we refresh the battlefield portion of the Unstoppable Finances framework, what that means, and the things that you need to take away from it. So let's get to it. Welcome back to the Your Money, Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Aimee Cerka. Today we're talking about financial overwhelm and really from the lens of the battlefield. Now, if you're not familiar with my Unstoppable Finances framework, the battlefield portion of the framework is where your money mindset comes in. This is like economics, rules of the games, and really our thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money. And this is really a lot of where I work. This is like what I specialize in. Yes, we talk all the step-by-step strategy, and we can do all those things, and I can give you the strategy, and that's all inside the academy as well. But none of it works. And actually, I think we're going to talk about this in the next episode. But it doesn't work, or it doesn't stick, or it doesn't work as effectively if we don't have this part figured out. So when we work on our emotions and the energetics around money, which our thoughts are all tied into that as well. And the reason that I specify emotions and energetics around money is because you can't change feelings with your thought. That's like the willpower there. If you are still feeling something, yes, we can reframe our thoughts, but there's another level there with our emotions and the energetics behind it that we have to continue to work on. Okay. But we're talking about it today in the lens of the battlefield, because the battlefield portion was what I've most recently worked on giving a refresh for the relaunch of the Money Mastery Academy that I am working on. We'll get to the other part in a minute. So we all deal with financial overwhelm, right? Like we all get overwhelmed when it comes with money, and how often we get overwhelmed probably depends on the stage of life that you're in, trauma that you've dealt with growing up, things that again, thoughts, feelings, emotions, they're not necessarily always accurate. So we can create and I don't like using the word trauma response because I feel like it's a little overutilized, but we can create that fear, that emotion, that trigger from something that was really not a big deal at all, but our subconscious mind and the way that we react, that trigger makes it seem like it's much more out of proportion. And this is really where the battlefield comes into play. So let's see, a couple quick notes from what I was looking at when we were doing the refresh. So why does financial overwhelm come up? I think one of the big things is we don't know what to do. So things feel overwhelming. They feel out of reach. We don't understand it would be the other part. Like, okay, so we have example might be if you have a high level of debt and you don't know how to get out of it, or you hear all of the inflation and you hear all the doom and gloom on the news and you're like, I don't know what to do with that. And it feels overwhelming because you don't know the next step, the next strategy to move forward. So that's where we need both the strategy and the battlefield. So like the strategy, the step there to help work on that overwhelm would be get support so that you know what the next strategy would be, and finding a way to understand things to help you move forward. So, take a step back whenever the overwhelm hits. Take a step back so that you can look and find the next logical step forward. And of course, get support if you need support. Like that's why coaching is the fourth part of the framework. But the overwhelm hits when we don't know what to do. And it's so much. And maybe you know what to do, but the idea of doing it's too much. This is why Execution Lab was created, because I can give you all the step-by-step strategy. We can look at the hundreds of people that have gone through Budgeting Simplified and Prosperity Simplified and how many have actually implemented, because when we look at it, the idea of creating a budget, like actually doing that step-by-step work, is the hardest part. And I think we talked about this recently. I have recorded way too much. So I believe this was on the podcast where we talked about the hardest part is getting the budget set up. So I'm not going to sit here and give you like, this is the specifics of what it should look like. There's principles that we need to have in place. Yes. And there's principles that need to show up within your finances, within your budget, that you need to have, like, those, they're not really rules, but those key foundations. But what it looks like specifically is unique to you. Again, your money, your life. I feel like we go back to that all the time. So like, this is again why the coaching comes into play. Like, we have to be able to personalize it to work for you, because otherwise you're not going to stick with it. So if we're overwhelmed because it's too big of a step, essentially the idea of setting up the entire budget is way too much. What you could do, get some support, right? Execution Lab's perfect for that. That's the monthly coaching and co-working space that I hold. So help you do the things that you need to do within your money. And then I'm there to help you. So then we do that along the way. It's $9 a month. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes as well. Okay. So if you're overwhelmed from, like, you don't know what to do, we're going to take a step back, and then we have to just figure out what the next step might be. Now, what that is, I know that's a very general statement, right? Like, just figure out what the next step should be. No big deal, right? But ask yourself the question, how? Like, how can this be possible? When you ask yourself the question, like looking for the solution, right, that your brain goes to work for you, like to find that solution because you're looking for the solution. You can get support. Again, Execution Lab, Money Mastery Academy. The Unstoppable Experience is like pre-launch. So we'll include links to that. I'll share them with you below because I'm so excited about the Unstoppable Experience. That, it's been a space that I've wanted to create for a while, and it's finally coming, that vision's finally coming to life. And we've worked on the branding. I've got a little video graphic that I'm working on that's just, yeah, gives me chills. So exciting. Okay. So having support, that's one of the things that you can do if you don't know what your next step should be. If everything's just so overwhelming. We also have opportunities for like mini coaching sessions that I've talked about. Like doing those here on the podcast, those, what do we call them? Coaching corner, I think is what last week's episode was. I think it was last week, but send me a message on Instagram. We can talk about that because there's so many different ways that you can get support. Okay. That's just what I'm getting at. There is a level of support available for you. We just have to look again for that possibility. And again, just asking yourself that question, like, what's the next step? What resources do I have available to you, and holding the space, because we're so busy, right? Or we feel that pressure, like we have to be listening to an audio training, or we have to have something playing in the car, or you have to even like I love to listen to music in the car. But there are times, and I have learned over the last 8 months, probably 6 months, like to give myself that space. And it's okay to have that space, to that rest. And when you take that step back and give yourself space to rest and to think, then the things that you have been looking for and the problems, air quotes, that you need to solve, you start to solve because you give yourself the space to think about it, to rest, to let your mind work instead of constantly staying busy, which I know is so hard in this instantaneous society. But when you can work on that, it's so rewarding. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. Even like the Unstoppable Experience. I just said, like, this has been something that like I've wanted, the idea of it, I've wanted to create for a long time. And I think there's even like iterations down the road that include like a live retreat portion. Like, I think that would be amazing to add in. But like this, the vision that's launching here is something that only happened because I gave myself the space to just sit and rest and not try and solve all the problems at once. And all of a sudden, the download just came flooding in. And it was like, okay, I got to go grab paper so I can write all this down. But that's what happens when you give yourself space and asking yourself those questions. You allow yourself to find the possibilities, to find the solutions, because again, you are already unstoppable. You already have all of this within you. It's just about uncovering it. Okay. So that's what I would do if it's overwhelm because you don't know what the next step should be. If it's, again, overwhelmed because there's too many things to do, it's too big of a project, start small. How to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Break it down into little pieces. You can also get support within Execution Lab. You get my Unstoppable Finances Quick Start when you join Execution Lab. So that breaks it down for you and gives you one piece of each of the framework to sit there and work on to move forward. And then, it's a continuous journey. This is not something that I ever feel like that we arrive in. I know that we don't. I know that I haven't arrived. I don't know of anybody that isn't working to continually to improve where they're at when it comes to money and wealth and just their overall well-being. It's not necessarily just about like making more money, right? This is about who you are, how you show up, the way that you feel, again, the energetics, the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Because we've talked about like if you are, doing all the right things tactically with the managing your money, and you've got the money in savings, and you've got this, and you've got that, and it's all set up for you, right? But really you're stressed about making money, making ends meet, or you're stressed about like, what are we going to do next month? Or you're like, okay, I've got to get this, and this done, instead of spending that time with your kids, instead of spending that time with your spouse, whatever it might be. That's not really where we want to be at. We want to be able to be in that place of embodiment where you are truly there, not just surface strategy, doing the right things. I want you to truly feel that way and to feel unstoppable, to feel that peace, to have all of that happiness and everything unlocked for you that I know that you can have. Okay. Those are probably the 3 key things. So not knowing what the next step is, too big of a step, we need to break it down, and then making sure that we're continuing working on ourselves, and not from a space of like you're broken or there's something wrong with you. It's just about unlocking the next level and feeling like there's a space for growth. So it's like gratitude for where you're at and still looking for growth at the same time. All right. If you want to check out Money Mastery Academy, I've got it for the relaunch portion of Money Mastery Academy. The relaunch price is just crazy. I already have realized like I'm going to have to raise it from what I think it is. So I don't know how long it's going to stay at this price, which is why I'm not giving a price right now, because I don't want you to hear the wrong price. I will put links in the show notes. If you have questions about, is this the right program for you at the moment, send me a message on Instagram. Money Mastery Academy is set up to give you the foundations, all that you need to that solid foundation to help you step into those unstoppable finances. So I'm going to include links below. I would love to see you inside the Academy. It is really, truly like the foundations of what I teach. We'll see you next time. Bye for now. If you're struggling with shame and guilt around your finances, whether it's debt, impulse spending, mistakes from the past, or the fact that you still haven't hit your income goal, then it's time for you to work with me. There are different levels of support and price points that you can use on the path to removing that guilt and shame so you can step into your unstoppable life. After all, your finances are unique to you, and your support should be too. Go to workwithaimee.com to get started with one of my most popular programs, or you can book a Q&A call with me and we'll figure out what that next step should be. And those links are hanging out in the description of this video as well.